Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, my guest is one of my business besties and dear friend, Tracie Root. Tracie is a speaker, retreat leader, podcaster, and community builder. She empowers women entrepreneurs to make bold, decisive action in life and business. As the founder of the Gather community and host of the Bold and Brilliant podcast, she leads a nationwide movement of ambitious women ready to dream bigger, achieve more, and create lasting success. Tracie, thank you for being a guest on my show today.
Of course, I'm so glad. We were both so surprised when it hadn't happened sooner. So the time is here.
Yeah, I could have sworn we did this already. That's so crazy. I know I was on your show, so maybe I just got them confused. But
yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, the timing is now, right?
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. So Tracie, you're someone who is really, when we think about community, like your face always comes to my mind when I think of that. And I know like part of your story and your journey is there was a time where maybe you could have benefited from community, but you weren't quite open to it yet. And how over time your mind has shifted on that. So I would love for you to share that story if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, of course. Honestly, it's interesting to think back to, for all of us, I think, who we were as teenagers, as young people. And as a young girl, I was always very ambitious, I'm going to make life happen for me, very excited about the fact that I get to create whatever I want in my life. And gratefully, I had parents who supported me in that, where once I decided what I wanted, nothing was going to keep me from it. As a result of that kind of personality trait, I tended to be kind of self-isolating in that, if it's going to be, it's up to me, that whole philosophy, which made me feel like no one could do things for me better than I could. So I better just do it all myself. And I didn't always have the answers, but once things were moving forward, nothing was going to keep me from what I wanted. In fact, I always remember that my favorite song when I was maybe 12 years old was Break My Stride. Nobody's going to break my stride. And it's funny because if you look that up now on YouTube, it's like the Solid Gold Dancers version of the recording is what you find. So it's always fun to go back and think about that, because I definitely felt that way. And I still do feel that way. But learning that doing everything on your own, I always called myself the Lone Ranger. And even when I was married to my first husband, we said it was him and me against the world. It's just us. We're together and no one needs to help us. We don't need to rely on anyone else. We relied on each other and we were just super tight. So all of this change, the idea of building community and being open to not only asking for help, but receiving help, happened after he died. He passed away from cancer. It's a weird sentence. I always say, I'm like, is that the way to say that? He passed away in 2010. He had cancer. Our children were 1.5 and 4 at the time. And I was the breadwinner. He was the stay-at-home dad, to the extent that he could do that between when the kids were born and when he was sick and going through all his treatment and ultimately his passing. It was and we didn't have any family nearby. So the idea of lean on your mom or lean on family members, neither one of us had family nearby. So while he was sick, he had some family come and visit. His mom even came out to visit, he was the youngest of 9. So she was quite old at the time. And although not clearly as old as she got eventually, because when he passed, he was 47. And so I don't know how old that made her, but it was great to have his family come and visit because when we got married, we assumed no one would be able to come if we got married in California. So we actually eloped. But ultimately, when he was sick, they came and visited, which was lovely. But that's more of a visit. That's still not really help during the illness. So while he was sick, we did get help from our church in getting him rides to treatment. And while I was taking the kids to daycare, going to work full time, etc. And ultimately, when he passed, within a couple of weeks, the influx of support around the passing, the funeral, like the immediate need, all ended. And ultimately, everyone was gone again. People came to visit, people came to support, and then they went home to their lives. And here I was with 2 little kids alone, with work friends and a couple of local besties. And that was my whole support system. I did get support. Actually, the person who supported me most is the guy who's now my husband. Tim and I we were friends since I was 17. So it's not anything weird. Like, he didn't become my friend and then we got married. We were friends the whole time. But I had a couple of people supporting me and a lot of work friends and no family nearby. So I very much felt like I was just figuring it out on my own, and I was going to have to do that as I always had done. You got to get it done on your own. About, I don't know, maybe a couple of months after the funerals, we actually had one here in California and one in New Orleans where he's in the family, like, crypt or whatever. One of the gals from my church came up to me. And this is a story I tell a lot because it has stuck with me ever since. It's been 15 and a half years. One of the women at my church came up to me and she said, and we didn't know each other than like in the community, but we weren't friends. She came up and said, I am starting a catering company and I'm trying out all these recipes and I have all this food at home and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. Is that something that would help you? I'm trying to figure out who I can give this to. And I said, no, I'm good. Thanks. But no, thanks.
Which still blows my mind. I've heard this story 5 times
I know, I
probably.
tell it all the time.
I'm still mad at you.
I know. Clearly, I'm mad at myself, maybe. I don't know. I'm not mad at myself, but that's just who I was. I was like, no, right. I'm good. I got this. We're fine. It's that fine, the F word, right? 4-letter F word, fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. And I wasn't fine. My husband died 2 months before. I was alone with 2 little kids.
You had 2 little kids.
Working full time. But clearly my routine was like, wake up in the morning, drink coffee, get them to daycare, go to work, probably have lunch, get home. Oh no, first I go pick them up from daycare, then get home, get them to bed, make them chicken nuggets or whatever low effort situation to get them some food, put them to bed. And then I would eat typically red wine, drink the red wine and like tortillas and cheese or tortillas and peanut butter and honey. Those were my go-to like comfort foods, especially the wine and the tortillas. It took me about a year and a half to get through that fog of grief. And anyone who's had a significant loss understands totally what that is. We've all had losses, but sometimes big things upheave your life for a year and a half or so. And this was one of them. And so about a year and a half in, I realized that if my kids were going to have the life that he and I had imagined in any way, have a parent of any involvement that he and I had imagined, if he was going to be a stay-at-home dad, he would be at all the things. And we were actually going to move and I was going to be the stay-at-home mom. That's a whole nother story. But without having 2 parents, I didn't have the capacity to be that stay-at-home parent, to be that really present, go to the field trips, be in the classroom parent. And that was what we had always dreamed for the involvement with our kids when we had them. So I decided that I was going to have to start doing things differently, and started with needing to take care of myself because clearly I had been in survival mode for not only the year and a half since he'd passed, but for a very long time before that, even before my youngest was born, probably was just making it through every day. There were good days and bad days, but mostly it was making it through every day. So I decided to figure out how to take care of, what do I need to do to take care of myself? I need to eat better, sleep better, maybe get some exercise. Like, I had 2 babies worth of weight plus survival mode for years on me, and I felt like I needed to take care of that, have some healthier lifestyle changes, lose some weight, become my energetic self again. And I knew that I couldn't just follow some plan without someone telling me what to do, because I clearly had tried that before in my life and it never had worked. So I found like a medical weight loss thing. And this was before these days of everything we have at our resources now. This was in 2011, 2012. And I knew that I was not going to be able to leave work early on a regular weekly basis to go to an appointment for any kind of medical support or even support group type of thing. Any support I was having was going to need to be online, remote. So I found a health coach online and a program that seemed very restrictive, but also structured, very structured. And I knew that if I followed the plan, I would have results. Like, it had a history and I just knew that it would work. It felt right. And so I started. And what I didn't know is that program came with a coach, which I, of course, didn't want to talk to because I was fine. I'll do it fine myself.
Oh, you're fine again.
Oh,
Okay, I'm
yeah.
glad there's a theme
I
here.
was always fine. We're not to the rest of it yet, but I was still just fine. Like, I didn't need to talk to anybody. I read her emails and was started to have success from a weight loss standpoint. And eventually she called me on a Saturday and I answered because I was just like, I'm fine. I don't have anything going on. I'm not at work. I don't have a meeting. I'm just sitting at home, hanging out. I could answer the phone. So I answered the phone. And that was the beginning of my first experience of what coaching looked like. She had been a health coach for a number of years. This was a network marketing style program. So she was a coach and her coach had taught her, and it's that whole trickle down thing. And eventually, within about 4 months, and I'd lost like 40 pounds in 4 months, people started to notice and started to ask me what I was doing. And they said, you could be a coach too. And so they taught me how to be a coach. I started in, like April of 2012, and learned not only how to teach this physical program that I had been learning, but started to understand what personal development looked like. Reading, wow. Reading actual books that helped you change your perspective and your understanding about your own thought process and the negative thoughts versus positive thoughts in your mind, and all of that mindset shift stuff that now is so much more common, but literally I didn't know anything about it back then. And it was the beginning of me understanding that my desire to believe in myself and my own abilities, I can do anything, I'm fine, I got this, was actually going to help me not only have my own success, but help other people, because I could convey that positive energy and positive thought process to others. And that's how I started coaching. By the time December came around, I had lost 55 pounds. I had been keeping it off, and I decided I was going to do that full time. I left my job. I moved across the country to live near my parents. So I had that family support, and the dream that Paul and I had of having a parent in the classroom and available to the kids came true, because I was now working for myself and I could call the shots on my own schedule. Now, I had thought about being an entrepreneur years before that, have little dabbles on the side, but I didn't really know anything about working for myself. So it was a rough road those first couple of years. But
Right.
the structure of learning the coaching process and understanding like active listening and really knowing that when you have someone to talk to, you can kind of get out of your own way as a result of the conversation that you had. That was like the definition of ask for help and accept help to me. And that was the beginning of me not saying, no, I don't need help. Now, am I still self-driven? Yes, I will say. And am I super capable of doing lots of different things? Also, yes. And I have people around me that I know that just by being together, I am supported. Whether I ask questions, whether I am absorbing and like sponging the energy off of all of the amazing women and men too over the course of the time, but right now I only work with women. All of the people that I get to surround myself with remind me that we're not designed to do this alone. Don't just say, I'm fine, I don't need help. Be open to the help that's around you, whether you're asking for it or not. Like, your energy is asking for it anyway. So you don't have to necessarily verbalize the words to know that it's there and it's yours. And it's just by being in the world and being open to it, you are receiving it.
So you finally got a message from the universe. Oh, perhaps I can lean into asking for
Yeah.
help or accepting it once in a while.
Yeah.
What happened that where you made the pivot to like, oh,
To
this is
building the
really,
community.
yeah, thank you for helping me with my words. You had a little pivot there, like not
Yeah.
only helping you build a community, but feel so strongly that women will thrive in community. Like, when did
Yeah.
that happen for you where you got that message?
So quick recap. I moved to Florida, but I was only there for 8 months. I got engaged to my now husband and moved back to California. So now I'm in California again. Coming back to California, but moving to a different city. I grew up in the Silicon Valley area. I now live in Santa Cruz. So for anyone who knows the geography of the Bay Area, we're about 20 miles south of San Jose, but over a mountain, which means we're a little bit geographically isolated from the world where I grew up in Silicon Valley, Cupertino, San Jose area. So I was very much a new person in this town, and I needed to find people, right? I didn't have people that I knew. I tried to connect with other parents at my kids' school. That was hit or miss. It wasn't really super effective for me. And it really started to, and it slowly but surely, I started to find a person here, a person there that we would vibe. I found some connections, some people that I would say I was starting to become friends with. But a few years later, and I was doing lots of networking, really trying to build a network for business. And a lot of the networking that I was doing was the throw your business card style, quick meetup. And it didn't resonate for me. It always seemed to be full of guys in finance, which is a whole like finance bro like trope. It seemed to be lots of guys in finance, and there were very few women, and there were very few people who I could really just personally relate to as people. Like, because while we don't have to become friends really with every person that we work with, we want to at least feel like we're aligned in some way, that we have similar values, that we care about how we treat each other similarly. And so I struggled with finding groups or a group that would allow me to feel that way. I ended up joining a group and networking over the hill, as we say. So I drove 45 minutes each way once a week for a group. It was similar to BNI, called Leads Club. And it was originally a women's group. And not because I searched out a women's group, but just because that was the group that I found. And I was there for 2 years. Every week, I took all the leadership roles over time because you have 6-month stints. And that, I think, was probably the beginning of being involved in a group of women in business that were trying to support each other. It still was, luckily, we weren't super hardcore on like the tracking of the leads and the dollars and all of that stuff. It really was more, we were just supporting each other from a community standpoint. And it was probably the beginning of me understanding that was what I wanted, even though I didn't know it going in. And I ended up leaving that group only because I was done driving an hour and a half every week to meet with ultimately the same people. So I left that group and tried to start my own group. Starting my own group was a challenge, and I ended up finding Polka Dot Powerhouse. I was the founding member of the chapter that is here. And that, again, was showing up for me as a group of women who were very kind and friendly and supportive. Everyone was in business in some way, mostly solopreneurs or working for a larger organization. Maybe they were a realtor, they worked for a brokerage, but they were really their own person. And I got more of that we are here for each other vibe. And then there was a pull. I started to get the idea that instead of coaching people one-on-one, I wanted to do more group coaching. It's the idea of how much time do you have? You can only serve so many solo clients. What if I did group activities? And I really wanted to do vision board workshops and things that were more goal setting and mindset related than physical health related, because that was never my passion. That's why I needed it in the first place. And at about the same time I started thinking about doing this group activity, there was a Gallup poll that came out and said Santa Cruz as a city was very highly scored in like healthy lifestyle and active lifestyle, like there's a lot of yoga classes around here, things like that, right? People ate healthy. There's a lot of nature we got the mountains and the ocean. And so there's a lot of the physical part of health that was highly scored for my town, which made me very happy as a health coach. But what was poorly scored for our town was the idea of community. And I was really surprised, but then I also wasn't surprised, because you'd think that a small town, we're probably like 45,000 people. It's a pretty small city. And with all of these high scores in all these other areas, the fact that really everyone had it was a little cliquey, for lack of a better word. Everyone had their communities. And that's what I had found. I wasn't able to bust into any of those groups. So I was still feeling isolated. So I said, what can I do about this? I can help to build more of what I was getting out of these networking groups, but in a new way. And since my vision board workshops, like I was trying to find places to do those, and it was very challenging to find a physical location in town that was affordable, that had the right vibe. I didn't want to go to the back room of the pizza place because that didn't work for this health coach thing that I was. And I didn't want to go to the community center with the bad linoleum and bad fluorescent lights, because who wants to plan their life vision in a place like that? So I decided that I would lean into my corporate background, which was interior design and project management. And I would rent a place, commercial real estate, which I knew nothing about, and create a space that was something that I would want to hold my own things at. And then, of course, I would rent that out as part of the business model. That place was called Gather. And I thought about it for a year before I said it out loud to anyone. When I said it out loud to someone, it started to exist in the world, get a life of its own. And within about a year after that, we opened. That was October of 2019. So opening in October of 2019, of course, when I tell this story in a group, everyone groans. You've heard it before, so I appreciate the nod. Because 5 months later, we had to close the doors and turn off the lights and sanitize the door handles and step away and see what that was going to look like going forward, which literally nobody knew. Within a couple of weeks, when we found out we weren't going back in person anytime soon, I thought, how can we take this room that was designed to bring people together physically and in person and uplift their networking meetings or their workshops or their book readings, or we had a music event, we had all these different things. What could we do that we could do online while we waited for the lockdown to end? And no one really knew what to do with their stuff that they had been doing in person. And I said, well, let's just come into my Zoom room and we'll figure it out together. I don't know what I'm doing either, but together we'll figure it out. So I opened it up and people came, and we've been doing weekly co-working just like that ever since. 5.5 years later, we're still here. And so Gather, the room, became the Gather community. And now, instead of having a room where people rent it and I give them visibility and the amenities and the space and the layout and everything that they need, the Gather community does all of that, but through a membership model. So our members receive the support and the visibility and the promotion and the platform that they need to have their stuff be successful as well. And with the hopes of me helping them meet new people and reach new people so that they can grow their businesses, which was the same plan for the physical space. And then the community came out of the lockdown. What I knew going into building the space was that I was going to fearlessly meet new people and connect them with other people so that my room could get used. And when we went online, I was like, the point was never to have a room. The point was to connect the people so that everyone could have an uplifted business life and uplifted life. And so now in the Gather community, that's what we do. And by connecting, it ended up being something that I was innately, required isn't the right word. I'm a natural connector. The first thought that I have when I meet new people is, oh, you need to meet this person. It's often like me going like this.
I've witnessed it on both ends.
Yeah. And I'm not like, oh, me. I'm like, oh, you need to meet that person and that person. And it's something that just happens. And I think that is coming from my corporate background where I was resourcing vendors and coordinating teams. It all makes so much more sense now looking back on it. That was always the skill, was the right vendors with the right skills, with the right things to have this project, this situation be as successful as possible. So it's still the same thing I'm doing now. Gosh, 30 years later. Thank you for that number. Whoa.
We're not counting, hope. We're not trying
well,
to figure out how to
it's
this
big.
and that.
I never knew when I first got out of college and started that job that I always say that my job was literally helping people manage change, which is a coaching trait, right? Helping people in their offices move offices. No one wants to move their office. That was my job, though, was to move their office. So I had to help them navigate this change that was happening in their life and in their work in a positive way so that they would be cooperative and do what they needed to do in order for the thing to happen. And going into coaching, it's the same thing, helping people navigate the change that they desire for themselves, but are afraid to take action on. And that's why I'm a good coach, because I've been doing it since I was 22. And
you are a great coach.
But I didn't realize that for a long time, how it all intertwines, how community support with the Gather community ties back into helping people from a coaching standpoint. And coaching is really helping people understand that if they ask for help and accept it, then their life will be better.
Amen. Okay. So, which takes us to, you've already demonstrated that you're a strong, independent woman. You would have survived without help, but asking for help and receiving help enriched you and built you up. And now you're teaching other women to do that. But I also want to make this point, and we have to wrap up, so it has to be quick.
Yep.
Not only do you support women in building their business and being more visible, but you are also supporting women healing. And an example of that is being a summit speaker and sponsor of my upcoming summit, Finding Purpose After Trauma. And I know it's your heart that's doing that because you mostly work with business women or entrepreneur women in that, not necessarily in the holistic coaching business
Right.
point. So the fact that you're doing this and supporting means a great deal to me. So I wanted you to let you know that. And in a nutshell, can you say a little bit why that it's important to you to give back in this way?
I think that the fact that I focus on women business leaders doesn't negate that we're all people. The connection between women as people and women in business it's completely intertwined. There is no difference between us having a business and having a life. We manage our families, we manage our community situations. We also manage our work. And whether someone is an entrepreneur or works for a company and is an employee, there's also still no difference because it's personal leadership. That was actually the name of my first Facebook group outside of health coaching, was personal leadership. And when we realize that everything we decide is for ourselves, whether it's personal or business, it's still the same thing. So helping people, and yes, I work primarily with women business owners. When you're in business, you have to get narrow in order for everything to resonate with people. But ultimately, the big life goal is to change the world by helping women understand that they can lead themselves toward their own personal success, whatever that looks like. Whether that means they have 10 kids and they want to be a great stay-at-home mom and have an amazing household that's spotlessly clean, whatever. It doesn't even have to be clean. It always comes to my mind because I do not have a clean house. But it would be nice. Whatever it is that fuels you, the dream that fuels you, is the thing that you're supposed to have. And it changes, right? For me, it started with give my kids the experience, or give my kids the support and the encouragement and the life that I want them to have. And then as they started to have that, I started to layer onto that for myself. What do I want for myself? What do I want for my own work? How do I want to upgrade that and uplift not only what I do, but how does that support people around me? So it's always this up leveling and this welling up of what exists to what's possible. And I think that when you're connected in community, you can see that happen across every person in the room, in the Zoom room, on the planet. I always tell people, when I became a coach, I didn't know that I wanted to change the world. I just thought I wanted to lose some weight. And ultimately,
it's all connected.
Right. But it's all connected, because the things that I did in order to change my own thought process around my own personal development and transformation and personal leadership are the things that other women also need to up-level their own personal development, personal transformation, and personal leadership, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's all those ripples in the pond. Everything makes the circle, and the circles get bigger and bigger, and then they all overlap and the world changes. And that's what we're doing.
Oh, I love that so much, Tracie. I want to thank you again for being a guest on my show today. I know we could have had a 3-hour call, but people's attention span, we got to honor that too. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit later. We're doing a besties business little Christmas gathering soon. So I will talk to you shortly then, okay? And thank you
Yes,
again for being a guest today and for being on my summit.
yeah, it's my pleasure. I can't wait. It's going to be a great one.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.